Welcome back to another episode of On the Issues with Alon Ben-Meir. We are happy to welcome back to the podcast Moshe Ma'oz, Professor Emeritus of Islamic and Middle Eastern Studies at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and a previous director of the university's Harry S. Truman Research Institute for the Advancement of Peace. In this episode, Alon and Moshe discuss Netanyahu's latest decision to escalate Israel's offensive and fully conquer all of Gaza, the current mood in Israel over the war and toward the Palestinians in general, and what role the international community, especially the United States, can play in resolving the conflict and working toward a two-state solution.
So, Moshe, really the first thing I'd like to hear from you, the madness of Netanyahu and his government. What is your take on this latest decision to go to Gaza City, basically to take over all of Gaza? And then what's going to happen? He's not saying anything. You go there, let's say you take Gaza, there will be thousands, maybe tens of thousands more casualties on the part of the Palestinian, perhaps dozens, if not hundreds, on the part of the Israelis. And then what? Is there any talk in Israel about what's going to happen next? Suppose that's going to take place?
Oh, sure. There are many comments and objections and demonstration against it. Well, this is a disastrous decision. I mean,
Yes.
how many times can Israel attack Gaza? Israel did it already and withdrew, and again. And it means that hostages may die, soldiers may be killed, Palestinians will be deported again and again, and the international community, except the United States, is protesting. And it depends very much on Mr. Trump and you Americans that you wouldn't cast a veto to these decisions of the UN, hopefully Security Council decision to stop the war in Gaza and establish a Palestinian state. Not immediately, gradually, but at least to express some willingness on the part of Israel. As you know, not only Netanyahu, unfortunately, most Israeli Jews, most of them, are against a Palestinian state. And this is partly understood or understandable because of October 7, 23, because most Israelis, even on the left, the liberals, are in despair because they say, we cannot live with the Palestinians. After this Hamas attack, can we agree to a Palestinian state? They are going to attack us also from the West Bank. And I disagree to it. There is no other alternative.
Of course, there is no other alternative. I mean, this is the madness. I mean, the objection to a Palestinian state was also very strong before October 7 of 2023. So this is basically Netanyahu and his government, and even, like you said, people from the center and even from the left are continuing singing the narrative that the Palestinian state poses existential danger to Israel, which is rubbish. You know very well, as I've been maintaining all along. In fact, precisely the opposite is true. Only a Palestinian state that can live at peace with Israel provide Israel the ultimate national security. I mean, that has been the case. You and I have been preaching this, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. My question to you, I never hear one word coming from Lapid, Gantz, and others. What are they doing? What are they saying? I mean, what's going on? Do you hear them? I mean, I don't see anything. Not in Haaretz, reading all the Israeli papers and American papers. What are they doing?
I mean, there are many protests, as you know, for the hostages and against the occupation of Gaza. Some also mention faintly the need to establish a Palestinian state. This is especially the role of Haaretz and a few others. Because, as you say, they believe that this is the best solution for Israel. It's going to serve Israel's interest. Absolutely. And we can live with the Palestinians. And the West Bankers are not Hamas. And even in Gaza, not all of them are Hamas. And many of them are now against Hamas. And as you know, the Arab League, including Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Jordan, published a warning to Hamas to disarm and
Yeah,
relinquish its control over Gaza. So this is a mood now also in the Arab world. Except for, and Israel is different. Israel is very stubborn. And this is
well,
because Netanyahu wants to continue his control, his rule. And for this, he needs to continue the war against Palestinians, Gaza, Hezbollah, Syria, you name it.
yeah. I mean, for him, I mean, very well, since he came to power in 1996, even then, more than 30 years ago, was saying there will be no state under any circumstance. He wants to destroy the Oslo Accord, and ever since, he swore to never allow a state to be Palestinian state to be established under his watch. I mean, we know that. When the Israelis say we cannot live with the Palestinians, I mean, do they understand? Are they feeling that the Palestinians are in Israel, 2 million of them in the West Bank, they're living with side by side the settlers, and now in Gaza? How are they going to get rid of 7 million Palestinians? I mean, we've been writing about it, talking. How are they going to read? They say no Palestinian state. Okay, what is the alternative? I mean, are they talking about alternatives, sound alternatives that make sense, that it is doable, that is practical?
No, I mean, there are all kinds of lunatic Israelis, messianic Israelis who want to deport the Palestinians from both the West Bank and Gaza. And it's not going to happen. How can you deport, as you say, 5 million Palestinians, about 3.5 million in the West Bank, 2.25 million in Gaza? Some might go, but the majority wants they want sumud to stick to their land and not to move. So no, it's no doubt that Israel is becoming a pariah state in the world because of this objections to Palestinian statehood and because of the continued killing of Palestinians, more than 60,000 in the Gaza Strip and thousands in the West Bank, and deportations, killing children and women and starving them. I mean, I lived there. I mean, I was born here and I lived here all my life. I never saw such a terrible situation. Now, of course, we have to blame also Hamas on the 7th of October, no doubt about it. But Hamas doesn't represent the Palestinian people. And even the 7th of October was caused partly at least by Israeli mistakes, as you know. Israel ignored the arming of Hamas, the building of tunnels, and all of this. There were warnings, but Israel, the Israeli leaders in their hubris disregarded it. And so this is partly is the blame of Israel. And Israel should have done something about it, and I wrote about it, to even negotiate with Hamas many years ago, because Hamas requested many times, including Ahmad Yassin, the founder, Hudna, ceasefire, truce with Israel. Israel rejected.
Right. I mean, I just want to focus, when the piece that I wrote last week about the resolution that was advanced by France and Saudi Arabia. Basically, they called on Hamas to disarm. Now, Netanyahu continued to claim that he's going to continue the fight until Hamas is completely liquidated. First of all, you and I agree that even if you liquidate the last fighter of Hamas, they are going to be still there, ideologically speaking, as an idea. So you cannot wipe that out. And my suggestion was that offering Hamas, even under these circumstances, if they disarm, which I agree they should be disarming,
Sure.
they should have a seat at the table. Why shouldn't they? I mean, this is not the first time terrorist groups. I mean, we have a source code of examples where extremists eventually end up sitting at the negotiating table because there is no other option. So what's wrong with having sit down with the Palestinian as let's say there is a new government, Fatah will have an election, the Hamas can participate in this election, whoever wins, provided they commit themselves to peace with Israel, to coexist peacefully with Israel. Is this proposition resonate anywhere in Israel?
I mean, you're right. Another thing which is very, very profound, Israel, Netanyahu, the government does not suggest an alternative to Hamas. If you don't want Hamas, and again, I'm against Hamas, and I agree with you that Hamas should turn political and maybe participate in the elections. Okay, but you have to suggest an alternative. And Netanyahu says that no, even the PLO is against the PLO in the West Bank, Abu Mazen, although they continue to cooperate with Israeli security forces against Hamas on the West Bank all the time. And Netanyahu calls them terrorists.
Yeah, moreover,
What does this suggest?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
even he rejected the Egyptian proposal, which is quite reasonable, to establish a kind of a pan-Arab committee which will supervise Gaza. Even this is against. So what does he want? He wants the Almighty to do it. What does he want? We don't know. And again, the public is not protesting against, as you suggested earlier, they protest, as I said, against occupying Gaza and so on and so forth, but not vis-a-vis the alternative. We need an alternative. Haaretz does it, but that's all.
Yeah, well, Haaretz, I mean, constantly is writing about this kind of thing, but nobody is coming with alternative, like I said, because they Ben-Gvir and Smotrich are very clear. They want to reestablish a greater Israel, and
Sure.
he's clinging to the government. He doesn't want the government to collapse. I mean, he has his own troubles. I mean, Netanyahu, in my view, and I think you agree with me, has been prolonging the war for many reasons, but one of the main reasons is that he doesn't want to be out of the government and face the fiscal commission of inquiry, facing the criminal charges against him. So he's sacrificing Israelis and Israeli future for his political gain, what is really the most horrific thing that any leader can do. But leave it to us, to Netanyahu, to choose this horrific path. I just wanted to mention so that our listener will understand that actually the Fatah, the Palestinian Authority, recognize Israel's right to exist, recognize, according to the Oslo Accord. They recognize, and yet Netanyahu still does not want to have anything to do with the Palestinian authorities. And yet again, okay, where do you go from here? If no Palestinian Authority, no Hamas, who are you going to negotiate with? Who are you going to sit down with? And what is going to be the alternative? No one is talking about alternative. But I just want to go back with you, Moshe, to the opposition parties. Why aren't we hearing from these so-called leaders of the various parties? Where are they? Are they hiding? What are they saying? Are they afraid to criticize the government? Are they afraid to talk about two-state solution? Why aren't they saying anything publicly? I hear nothing from them. Do you?
No, you're right. I'm very disappointed from not to mention Gantz, who's more right wing than left. Lapid, he changed. He was for Palestinian state in the past. Now he's changed. He's against, definitely against. Even Yair Golan, the Democratic Party, is partly okay, but he never mentions the word Palestinian state. He said, we want separation from the Palestinians, but he doesn't mention the states, and he ignores the ability of the PLO, Fatah, to cooperate with Israel. Only recently, 99 members of the Knesset except for Arab members, voted against the idea of a Palestinian, the establishment of a Palestinian state. This is the mood now in Israel. The only person that can do something, can change it, is President Trump. He, unfortunately, is not doing it. He exercised pressure on Israel to supply humanitarian help to the Gaza Strip, maybe to stop the war, but not to establish a Palestinian. And this is the same Trump in his Abraham Accords and the deal of the century, 2020. He advocated the Palestinian state,
Exactly
although
right.
not the full Palestinian state.
Exactly
But
right.
now, again, and he's the only one. And American Jews, in my opinion, should exercise pressure on him to do it.
Yeah, but we look what's going on now. I mean, Trump is like just Netanyahu. I mean, between the two of them, they are destroying both the United States and Israel, and that
Yeah.
is the tragedy of our time, and that is really a tragedy. But you know, going back there, this administration seems to me, this Trump is not going to do anything to stop this horrific, disastrous plan to go back to Gaza. And let's suppose they go back to Gaza and take Gaza City. And then still there is no one is saying, what are we, you know, Netanyahu is saying, we will turn it over to the Arab states. Do you see any validity in that they turn Gaza over to the Arab states? What Arab states are going to come to clean up the mess that he has created? Is there any validity to the notion that some Arab countries are going to come to Gaza and try to establish some kind of rule or some kind of government? I mean, isn't this far-fetched for the Arab state, any of them, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, at least those who have direct concern, direct interest? Are they really, will they ever consider coming and cleaning up the mess that Israel has created and take over 2 million, over the life of 2 million people, feed them, clothing them, providing job opportunities? How that's going to happen?
He speaks vaguely about some international force, sometimes some Arab force, but in the same time, as I said earlier, he rejects the good Egyptian suggestion to establish an inter-Arab committee to rule the Gaza Strip after Israel withdraws from Gaza. He is against it. What else? I mean, it doesn't have any positive idea regarding Gaza. And in the meantime, Gaza doesn't exist already. You know, 80% at least of Gaza is destroyed.
Yeah.
In addition to so many killed and so on, and maimed and sick and starving. I mean, it's a disaster. And the world, of course, protests, but not enough. I saw Netanyahu is a culprit. He should be removed. The problem, as you suggested, Alon, there is no alternative in Israel because most Israeli leaders follow more or less this idea because they don't want to be unpopular in the elections. Because the mood in Israel is very anti-Palestinian. I've never seen such a mood for so many years. So
Yeah, but so go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, go ahead.
No, well, you know, this is the mood. I mean, it's been the anti Palestinian state has existed for decades, and it's now only been heightened because of the events of October 7th and what happened subsequently. I mean, I have been maintaining that the Israeli public has been brainwashed by
Yes.
the successive Netanyahu government, even before that, to suggest that Palestinian, you know, poses, like we said before, existential to Israel. And so the public basically bought into this false argument. And this is, in my view, this is the mindset. That is a mindset that prevails today in Israel, like you said. The vast majority believe that Palestinian state is a danger, and they are against the Palestinian state. But there are also this other segment, the extremists on the right, the messianic, like the Ben-Meir and his company and Smotrich, really don't give a damn about anything other than continuing to push the Palestinians out of the West Bank, out of Gaza, to recreate so-called the Greater Israel. So there is a mindset. The question is, in my view, that is, unless there is a public movement, a public that come and demand we put an end to this conflict, and the only end is going to have to be based on a two-state solution, how do you go about? I'm just trying to sort of have this explore this with you. How do you go about changing the Israeli mindset to make them understand that in fact the Palestinian state not only doesn't pose a danger, but in fact it will offer Israel the ultimate security that it is seeking. So this is a question of psychological dimension of the Israeli mindset, Israeli public. How do we go about trying to change this mindset?
A $1 billion question. And I mean, already we've seen the attitude of most European countries and other countries recognizing the Palestinian state, many of them in West Europe in September, in the UN Assembly in September. And you see, I mean, we see it also in academia. I mean, they boycott Israeli publications, Israeli visits, and what have you. And still, the Israeli public is not moved at all. Despite, and as I said, and Israelis know it, the only force that can change it is Washington. This is the only force, because Israel suffers. Only the other day, there was an announcement from the Norwegian Peace Fund, whatever it's called, to withdraw investment in Israel. Holland does it. Even Germany, Italy, prohibit to sell arms to Israel. Nothing changes. Although Israelis are affected by it. And as you know, good Israelis, talented Israelis are leaving Israel. They are leaving to Germany, Portugal, Greece, you name it. So we are going to be in these disasters. And again, I don't know if God is not going to help us. He didn't do it in October 7th, if he exists, which I doubted very much. Only Trump. But and it's up to the Jews in America to influence him.
But then again,
this is my take. This is
I agree with you. I think, as I indicated in my last article, I think Trump could make a huge difference for many reasons. One, he's very popular in Israel. They love him. So if he comes up and say, the best thing for you is to have peace based on a two-state solution, I mean, people will start to listen. But more importantly than that, the United States can, support in every which way, specifically militarily and economically. And as long as this continues almost unconditionally, there is no reason for any Israeli government to change its behavior. And so the key, I agree with you, this is one of the keys that lies here in the United States. And as long as Trump, and before him, even Biden did not, in fact, not a single president, as far as I know, of the United States. They all supported two-state solution, including a Trump in 2020, but none has put their foot down and say, enough is enough. We believe in two-state solution. Let us take action and make it happen. And I think going back to Obama, you can go back all the way to 2000, even Clinton and before. But nobody, they sing the song of two-state solution, but no American administration has ever put its foot down and say, enough is enough. And now it's even worse. And Trump, who actually supported two-state solution, now he's even against it. So without a shift in American position toward two-state solution, I don't see how anybody in any prime minister in Israel, any government, not necessarily this one, even a more moderate one, will go for a two-state solution. And significant continuing pressure from the United States with some ultimatum that is a pressure to sit down and negotiate in good faith. I, I don't see a prospect of that happening anytime soon. Do you see any possibility? I mean, look at the Jewish, you're talking about Jewish community here. Look what AIPAC has been doing. AIPAC has been supporting any Republican candidate in any of these states running for the House, for the Senate. If they oppose, those who oppose Israel, they support their opponent so that they can be defeated. So no
Yeah.
matter what Netanyahu is doing, AIPAC is 1,000% backing the government. So this is the Jewish community here, by and large. You know, the most influential organization, Jewish organization, is AIPAC. And AIPAC is in Netanyahu's pocket. How do you change that?
There is
I
an
mean,
exception, but it's not very popular. Bernie Sanders from Vermont, I believe. He thinks rightly, not only now, he makes a condition that if Israel doesn't go for peace with the Palestinians, America would prevent sending arms to Israel. And Israel depends very much on F-35, F-16, computers, tanks, and what have you, and support in the UN. This is the only way to do it. And he's a Jewish senator, and he was even a candidate for president. He didn't do it. He didn't make it. This is the way. This is the way to exercise pressure on Israel, and Israelis will understand and accept. It doesn't come from Europe, despite what I said earlier, all the damage that Israel suffers from the European position. America is more important.
No, I agree. I mean, European, even collectively, even entire EU will not have a similar effect on Israel as the United States has and will continue to have. And that is really a tragedy, because it seems to me that going back to the current Israeli plans to go to Gaza City, and there is no objection from the United States, from President Trump, this is probably is going to happen in spite of the fact that there is some initial demonstrations in Israel. Do you feel that I mean, one other, to what extent those you can further augment, enlarge, expand these demonstrations in Israel? I mean, for example, do you feel if say 3, 4, 500,000 Israelis go to the street against this another phase in this war, will that have any effect? Would that be a possibility to instigate far greater protest against resumption of the war in this way?
Unfortunately, not. I mean, look at our new chief of staff, Eyal Zamir. He's against, he said it publicly, he's against fighting against Gaza because it's going to cost dearly in human life and the hostage and so on. And our demonstration for his position, it doesn't help. And they're now plotting to dismiss him, as
Well,
they did with
well,
his.
instead of being dismissed, I mean, he made the case. He said he's against it, and he explained the reason that is going to be exhausting the military. The objective will remain elusive at best. Then he should at least, in my thing, to make his point, he should resign instead of submitting still a plan to. As of this morning, the Emeritus has submitted a plan how they're going to go and execute this horrific design to retake Gaza City, to take Gaza City. Why isn't he resigning in protest to suggest to tell the public that this plan is disaster and I cannot support it? Instead, he still caved in and provided a roadmap for the execution of Netanyahu's madness. Why isn't he resigning? Should he resign?
No. I mean, if he resigns, they will appoint somebody who's.
That's fine, but the message to the Israeli public will be different. That here the chief of staff is saying it's a wrong thing. He resigned because they didn't listen to. They didn't listen to him, and they can appoint anyone who will come and execute the plan. That's fine. But the message, what I'm saying here, to change public opinion about anything, The leaders, some of those who matter, like the chief of staff of the Israeli military, he has to make a point. You already said it publicly. I am against the war. They are
Yeah.
not listening to you. Well, instead of going ahead and submitting a plan of action to which you object, resign in protest and tell the public that this is a disaster war. I mean, how else would you mobilize public opinion if these leaders are cowards, be that the chief of staff, be that the minister, be that the members of the parliament? They are cowards. And even, I mean, I talk to some of academia, as you well know, on a regular basis. They're afraid to talk, even academic from the academia, afraid to talk about two-state solution. They're afraid. They're intimidated. They're intimidated. So this is the problem I see. I mean, to me, the two factors. One, Israel public opinion ought to change, and the two is the United States position ought to change. And this is a very, very tall order. The question is, how do we go about it? Because these are, in my view, Moshe, if you agree, these are the two prerequisites to change the discourse, to change the dynamic of the conflict. How do we go about that?
Alon, as you know, many Israelis, including myself and my relatives, have been protesting every week against the government. Most of them are tired, exhausted, and now not very many go. I mean, in my image, 1 million of Israelis should storm or assemble near the Knesset, and this might help. It doesn't happen. You don't have even a quarter of 1 million. Israelis are not, I mean, they're tired, exhausted, and in despair. And as I said earlier, some are leaving Israel, and so they are apathetic. So I don't know if it can come from inside Israel, despite the position of Eyal Zamir, the chief of staff. I doubt it very much.
Yeah, but then, in a moment of crisis, you would think some new leaders will emerge and say enough is enough. And this is obviously is not happening in Israel.
No.
Everybody's still, all these old guys sitting on their comfortable chair, talking about it, but they're doing nothing. All the opposition leaders. And the one who is gaining more and more popularity is Naftali Bennett, who is outright against any solution based on a two-state solution. Now he's getting more popularity. Am I right? And
Yes.
if there's a new election, he may very well get
Yes. But
become a second.
is no less right wing from Netanyahu.
Exactly, and he's still
clean. Is clean. Is not corrupt as Netanyahu, but politically
are the same.
He's very extreme right wing.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
and he said again and again, only recently, is against the Palestinian state. This is again common to all Israeli Jews, most Israeli Jews, not the Arabs. Arabs, of course, are for Palestinian state. So am I, and some of my friends, not very many. No, Netanyahu, even, I mean, I told you, even Yair Golan of the Democrats doesn't support the Palestinian state probably because he's not going to be popular if he does it. I understand him. I had some conversation with him about it. And I said, yeah, not only against the Palestinians, some of them, yes, but not Jerusalem. Is Jerusalem never? United Jerusalem, they say, is more important than peace with Arabs. This is the slogan that's been going on for years. This is the mood in Israel.
So I mean, basically, this is the mood. There is no leaders who is saying anything hardly to the contrary.
No.
There is no pressure from this country as long as Trump, of course, can change his mind on a dime. We never know with him. But so far, there is no change of approach. The problem here, as you well know, they need the support of the conservative movement, specifically the evangelicals. Even Democrats need them, and so they don't want to go against the trend, obviously, and that is one of the main reasons the support for Israel is so sustained for so long. One might think, Moshe, that the October 7 attack would demonstrate that the situation is not sustainable, when in fact on Israel it has had the same effect, opposite effect. You see, we told you they cannot live with the Palestinians. Look what they are
Yeah,
doing. Yeah,
yes.
forgetting the fact that they've been under occupation for 57 years in the West Bank, forgetting the fact there was a blockade for 18 years around Gaza, forgetting the fact that the Palestinians been under this brutal state conditions all these years, and forgetting the fact that Netanyahu, nobody else, made it possible for Hamas to prepare for this kind of attack, allowing money to go to Hamas by the billions from Qatar, overlooking the fact that they've been building hundreds of miles of tunnels. The Israeli intelligence knew about that all along. But Netanyahu, took it for granted Hamas is incapable of waging such an attack. I'm going as far as saying I think he might even invited that, albeit maybe indirectly, so that just to strengthen the position that they cannot deal with the Palestinian. I mean, this is the tragedy of Israel today. It's a tragedy, and where do you go from here?
Yeah, I mean, as we know, all of us, Netanyahu doesn't want to relinquish control. And to face an investigation committee on the 7th of October 7th. So he continues the war, despite everybody, for his own sake. And
But
and Israelis cannot stop him.
but Moshe,
And
let's
many
say
of them
let's say
support him
yeah,
because
but
he
let's
could.
say yeah, but I want to ask you. Let's say, like we said before, let's say he is out of power. But there is nobody else today, even from the opposition, who's coming and say we have to find a solution based on a different formula. So the
No,
problem is, even if Netanyahu end up losing power, be that by whatever reason, through election or under pressure, who is going to come and say we need a new approach, a new alternative? Who's going to do that? I mean, asking myself because I'm going crazy with this notion. Uh, what do we do? How do you go about it? Again, uh,
I mean, there are candidates.
you are historian. You are historian.
No, I mean, there are candidates like former General Eisenkot, who is a very, very honest person, and he lost his son also in the war. But it's not popular. In the recent polls, he get 9 members only. He wants, of course, to unify the camp, but it's not going to work. So Israel doesn't have a potential leader to lead it to a peace with the Palestinians. This is the point. Nobody can be. I don't see anybody. Maybe you from outside you can see. I don't see, and all my friends and relatives and what have you. Those who are interested also do. I mean, they have all kinds of ideas, but I mean, like as I said, Yair Golan or Eisenkot, not Yair Lapid, not Benny Gantz, not Lieberman or Bennett. No, they're not. They're right wing, and even the leftists are not capable of doing any change
I
because
just
it's
want
not
to,
popular.
yeah, want to ask you. I mean, there's some demonstration in Israel today, actually not just about getting the hostages back, but in fact against the new plan to go back to Gaza and take over basically the whole territory. There are demonstrations. Am I right? I mean, I see that uh,
Yes,
in Tel Aviv, but not in the hundreds of thousands. Like 5,000, 10,000 actually in the
yeah,
street demonstrate. Am I right?
yes. Not
Yeah.
only Tel
Okay.
Aviv, also in Jerusalem and Haifa and other places, but
Yeah.
it's not enough.
It's not
It's not
enough.
powerful enough.
During the when they were demonstrating against the so-called judiciary reforms, there are hundreds of thousands were pouring every Saturday into the streets. And basically, they succeeded in stopping the government from going through with the so-called judiciary reforms. Is there any chance? Is there any chance that this group, like today, this relatively small demonstration against the expansion of the war, is there any way this can grow into the hundreds of thousands, many hundreds of thousands? Because in my view, probably only such public protests of such magnitude may create some kind of dent. and prevent Netanyahu from continuing this plan? Is it such a, I mean, since there are some already demonstration, how can we build on it? Is there anyone in Israel today who can actually say, this is what's going to take, let's build on it, Eisenkopf and others? Is there such a possibility that spread the word, expand this demonstration, make it in the hundreds of thousands instead of the tens of thousands, as a one tool?
Inshallah. But the point is, the judiciary reform is one thing which will upset many Israelis, and they go out against. The Palestinian state is different because, as I mentioned earlier, of October 7, the Hamas attack, and most Israelis, including some of my friends, regard now not only Hamas, the Palestinians as deadly enemies of Israel. We can never do peace with them. This is the position even of intellectuals. You read the papers, even if Palestinians are out. Ultimately, they are out. So they're not going to demonstrate for this issue because most Israelis feel that Hamas feel that we should take revenge of Hamas. This is why many of them even support what Israel is doing to Gaza people, who are not all of them Hamas, starving them, killing them, maiming them. Terrible. I'm so ashamed alone to be an Israeli to see what's happening.
I know. I mean, even many Jews here, more liberal, are afraid to say, even I'm Jewish. I mean, there is such an anti-Jewish sentiment. Of course, anti-Semitism been on the rise by the 3, 4, 500% since this horrific war started, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse, and nobody seemed to care. But let me just ask a final question as a historian. Moshe, can you envision what's going to happen next couple of years? Can you draw any parallels, any ideas whether this is going to go to from any historical perspective?
Alone, I'm an historian of the past, not of the future. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, but the past is a telling for us lesson from which we learn.
As you can listen to me, I'm in despair. I don't know what to do. I mean, I have some suggestions, as I mentioned time and again about Trump, but I'm not so sure whether it's going to happen. We don't see any powerful forces here that can change. As I mentioned, even the left-wing opposition is weak. I mean, taking Yair Golan, 9 in the service, 9 members. Eisenkot, 9 members. This is vis-a-vis 120. What can you do with this?
Yeah.
Only, as I said, only a pressure from outside. As you know, we have the examples of Eisenhower exercising pressure on Israel in 1956 to withdraw in Sinai. And it worked, and other things, but no other way. And again and again, and I'm sorry that I'm repeating myself, Trump, who is being very much revered in Israel, can do the job.
Yeah, and he's refusing so far. Well,
yeah,
you
have to change his mind alone.
Yeah, well, I'm going to do everything I can to change his mind. I'm writing a piece on this point, on this subject for next week between Netanyahu and Trump. Where do we go from here? That's my piece. Anticipate
good luck,
that.
Good luck. Good luck. And if you have good news, let me know.
Well, I've been making my noise all these years.
Yeah,
And people say, aren't you getting sick and tired? Why you keep at it? And I say, like we said, give me the alternative. Is being quiet any better? Saying nothing is any better? So we have to keep at it, and do our best to keep the issue alive. I mean, that's the least, from my perspective, the least I can do is keep it alive. Keep talking about it, even though it may fall on deaf ears. But I don't see any other alternative other than keeping at it.
I agree.
Yeah. Moshe, as always, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. I'm sorry
I'm
that I
really
couldn't.
looking forward to having a conversation with you in person in Jerusalem, inshallah, soon.
I'll prepare peace and quiet before you come.
Yes?
I'll make a deal with the Palestinians before you come. I'll work on it. I'm not sure whether I'll succeed, but I'll try.
Well, I'm going to do my best.
Thanks very much.
תודה,
nice
תודה
time.
רבה, ובאמת הרבה תודות לך, ואינשאללה, next time we talk, maybe we can feel a little bit more optimistic.
Yaret.
Yaret, that's right, Yaret. Thank you again, Moshe, my friend,
Thank you. Bye-bye.
very dear friend. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Shalom Rav.
Thanks very much.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode on the issues. You can find this podcast on my SoundCloud page, and stay tuned to my social media accounts for the latest analysis and announcements.